What is it, buddy? I have a meeting. Can you turn the volume down on that, boy? I'm sorry, I've got like 3 meetings in a row. Hey, Evelyn. How are you, Evelyn?
Hi, I'm fine, thank you.
Good, good. It's good to see you.
Me too.
I know, right?
Days are just going by so quickly. It's like, boom. It's just like we just met yesterday, and today's the 21st.
Man, I felt like it just takes me forever to do anything. Holy cow. It really, yeah. Oh, we've got more people coming in. Look at that. Here we come, people. Good job.
How many people do we have? Okay, I see.
We had 13 registered.
13, okay.
So, and I think we had 11 registered. That includes me. I think David actually registered twice. So
Yeah, he wanted to be here, represent twice. Make sure he got twice the information.
Yep. So yeah, there should be, hopefully, and I've been sending more reminders and calendar invites and trying to help people kind of get it on. So you can sync your calendar with our calendar now. I've been so into those Google syncing calendars. Hey, David.
How's it going?
Pretty good. How
Fine,
are you?
thank you.
Yeah.
Who's Gillespie? Is that? I don't know if that's someone I know because the name is that, you know who that is, the fourth person?
I'm gonna check it to be sure. Megan, I believe, Gillespie.
Oh, Megan. Okay, I thought it was Minnie because I know Minnie Gillespie, so I was wondering if that was her or if that was somebody else.
Double check to make sure, though. Here, let me see. Oh, it's Mike.
Oh, Mike. Okay. Is he a banker?
I don't know. Let me see if it's at iBank Marine. Yes.
Oh, yeah, I know Mike. I mean, I don't know him, but I deal with him through email. Like Mike, are you there? He probably is on mute.
And then we have Rusty.
Hi. We've emailed a couple of times. Oh, that's Rusty. Well, the name was wrong. What happened to Mike? Okay. Okay, there are more. I see. Okay, there's more people coming. Okay. All righty. We have a fuller house today.
Yeah, yay. I appreciate y'all showing up. We're going to give people just a couple more minutes, I think, before we get started.
All right. Everybody doing good today?
Yeah.
Thumbs up. Okay. This is why I like the hi Mike. Well, I guess kind of nice to informally meet you, I guess. We've emailed a couple of times.
And then we have Jill.
So,
feel free to hop in the chat, y'all, or use those reactions so we know you're with us.
It's so much better when we're like in a room together because you can have that interaction. It's just so weird on the computer when you're just like, is anybody there? Am I talking to myself?
Yeah.
So it just feels so weird.
Mm-hmm.
The interaction is just not, you can't have the same interaction online like you can do face to face. It's just not.
Mm-mm.
It's not there.
It's not. It's a totally different thing. So
yeah.
Well, I appreciate you so much, Evelyn. And I thought the first session was great, and those spreadsheets and how you walked through it, I just thought that was really good. So I'm looking forward to this.
Good. Well, whenever you're ready to open the grounds, just let me know.
Yeah, well, why don't we just go ahead, because we'll value everybody who did show up on time. We'll go ahead and get started. And if you need to share your screen, you can. I appreciate everybody who showed up today. I'm Sarah Ayers. I'm the program coordinator at Innovate Springfield. And we've got Evelyn Ivy, who is an Innovate Springfield member and the founder of the Lifestyle CPA, to talk to us about scaling your finances for growth. I'm going to go ahead and mute myself and pass the mic to Evelyn.
Hi, everyone. Like she said, I'm Evelyn. I'm a CPA, and today we'll be talking about creating your budget. When I first of all designed this program, because we've been talking about this for a couple of months now, but so it was designed as a face-to-face interaction, but I'm kind of having to edit it to more of the video format. So I'm hoping I can still get the same message across. If you have any questions, feel free to chime in, because I feel the values and the interaction. I'm a very interactive teacher, so that's how I love to teach, is with the interaction, because I thrive on feedback and, responding, and, if not, I'll just give what I have and feel like I'm talking to my computer. I guess I can do that too. So anyway, so let me start. So here, the objective today is how to create effective budgets. To create a budget, you first of all have to know where you are. Where are you right now? Because without knowing where you are, it's impossible to think about where you're going. If I'm going to Chicago and I don't know I'm in Springfield, how do I know if to go north or south? You need to know where you are so you know what direction you need to take. And that's the very first step. And to do that, you need to understand your income statement. Your income statement is the financials that tells you what you've earned, what you have spent, and what you have left over in the business, in most cases. And this, I said this year, but whatever you have left in the business in the period which you're looking at. So where you want to start with building your budget is knowing where you've been in the past. So I always recommend the most recent 12 months. I don't really like doing calendar years because things can change very rapidly. So you always want to go from the most current and 12 months back, and not really the previous year. So that's where you start getting information from. So this is what a profit and loss statement look like. You guys can see my. So this is what your actual looks like. So what you want to do first of all is you want to take out the revenue. We'll talk about how you take out the revenue and how you abstract information from your profit and loss for the revenue to budget forward. And then we'll talk about your expense and how you abstract information for your expenses to budget that forward. So let's look at this. So I'm making the assumption that everybody here already has a business, because if you don't have a business, then you obviously don't have a profit and loss statement. So it will be, if you don't have a business already, then you have all your estimations will be projections. You just have to estimate based on how many customers and how much expenses you need to serve them. So once you have your profit and loss statement, to determine your revenue, what you want to do is you want to take your revenue and break it down by income, by customers. So this is a sample breakdown here. So what I did is, this is just a bunch of information that really, just some sample names. So basically what I did is I took the income statement, I abstracted all the customers that made up the revenue. I broke it down by revenue, and I can see which ones are recurring and non-recurring. So then once you do that, you want to use your Excel and then abstract and say recurring revenue and non-recurring revenue. And then your recurring revenue, you want to add that up because you want to see, okay, how much revenue do I have recurring every month? And then you also want to know which ones are my one-time clients. And that's also a good stream for me, because those one-time clients sometimes want to do more business with you, but they don't really know that you offer more services. So even just looking at your profit by customer is very, very useful, because you can see, I mean, sometimes those existing customers could be new revenue sources, but you don't know until you actually look at where you are right now, which is why knowing where you are, I cannot overestimate the importance of knowing where you currently are. So when you see that, you know, okay, this is my recurring revenue, this is my non-recurring revenue. So you have that information, and then now you can use that as information to project your way forward, because you always want to start from a basis of, you don't want to have pie in the sky figures, like saying, oh, I know this year I'll probably make $1 million, but you've never made more than $100 in your life. I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible, but you have to have a realistic path to doing it. And part of that realistic path is, if there's a path from where you are to where you're going, then it's probably realistic. But if you cannot see a path there and it's just a dream in your head, it probably isn't going to happen. And it's amazing. I can't tell you how amazing it is. I mean, it might seem like nothing, but it's so amazing how the mind works. When the mind can see a path to doing something, it goes there. But if it can't see a path, then to your mind, it's just a fairy tale and it's not going to pursue it. So if you can help your mind by creating a clear path and saying, here it is. Hey, mind, here's where I am today. Here's where I want to go. Here's how we're going to do it. Subconsciously, you'll start working towards it. But if you have no plan and you have no path, there's nothing to work towards. If you wake up every day, you say, I'm just going to go to work, get home, watch TV, and go to bed. Tomorrow, wake up, go to work again. Guess what? 10 years from now, you probably still be doing the same thing, because your mind is not working towards anything. So even if, you know, this is probably one of the most important reasons why creating your budget is so important, because it gives you a path. It gives you a way to move forward, to get to where you're trying to go. Things might look bleak right now, but if your mind is not weighed down by what's going around you, and you can actually think above what's going on around you, you'll be surprised at the results you probably could get. So once you do that, once you pull out that information, the next thing you want to do is, now you want to project out your revenue. So to make that easy, so you're not having to create everything from scratch, I do have some templates that I have. And in my template, so basically you have to enter it. So the yellow field is where you enter data. In the yellow field, you just say, okay, this is my average customer pays me. Anytime I get a customer, I get $500. That's just a random number. I get $500 a month. And in this month, I'm expecting, so you say the number of customers you're expecting each month. So you're expecting a new customer in January, February, maybe things are a little bit hard in March. You expect, none, or maybe July, August, just whatever it is, just say, okay, based on my plans on marketing, based on my plans of past behavior of what had happened in my business, this is how many new customers I'm expecting. And of those new customers, and these are the number of one-time customers I'm expecting. So these are recurring customers you're expecting to come in. So which means once they come in, you'll always have that revenue. And if you don't have that, then these are the number of one-time customers you are expecting. And then for this part, I say my monthly recurring. Remember when I did that profit and loss, and I broke it down by customer, and I broke it down to recurring and non-recurring, so I could see what my recurring revenue is. So I see my monthly recurring revenue is currently $13,000. So I have that information in there. So the next thing I want to do, and once I have my profit and loss, is once I have my revenues, I want to break down my expenses. So to break down my expenses, especially, there are three ways you want to break down your expenses. When you're talking about breaking down your expenses, you want to know what your fixed commitments are, what your discretionary spending is, and what your variable expenses are. So your fixed expenses are things like your rents. Obviously, if your rent is $500 a month, it is $500 a month. You sign a lease, you have a contract, that's what it is. You have discretionary expenses like things like meals and entertainment. You don't have to go out to eat. You don't have to buy food for the office. You know, those are discretionary expenses that you can choose to cut back on, or, you know, over time. And then you have variable expenses that basically expenses that fluctuate based on the amount of sales you're doing, or based on some other factor besides. So it can change every month depending on how much the level of activities you have in your business. So what you want to do with your P&L is, when you get that, break it down and say, these are my fixed expenses. I know I'm going to pay insurance. Those are fixed. I have my subscriptions, which are fixed because those are usually fixed. I have my rent, which is fixed. You know, I have my payroll. I have professional fees that you pay, utilities, all of those fixed expenses. You want to break it down by month, and you want to see how, you know, what they are and how much it is. So you have your fixed, and then your variable. You kind of want to know what percentage, how your variable expenses fluctuate, your income, and then the things that you probably cut first if things get really hard. So once you do that, you know, in this template I have, you can just enter your recurring payments. You can enter your discretionary expenses. You can enter then the variable. I put that as a percentage. So what I do is, so once you have all that broken out, once you know what your revenue sources are, how your income is broken out, then you can now start playing around with your budget. So as you can see, based on here, I can see that if everything is the way I add everything in my data entry screen, it's projected out this way. So I can see that, okay, if I get one new customer, you know, each month, this is how my this is the amount of new recurring revenue I'll have. This is my existing recurring revenue. And then this is my non-recurring revenue based on everything I entered on my data entry screen. And then basically, that will be my monthly revenue. I also have my fixed commitments, I have my recurring payments, and I have my discretionary expenses. So once I have that, and I project that out, because this is kind of a general template, what you want to do is you want to have something more specific, because every business I see works differently. But even though it will work for most businesses, I mean, with a little tweaking or whatever, but you want to make sure that your variable expenses are based on the level of activity in your business, and not necessarily, because not everything is always going to be a percentage of sales, but in general, I'm just making this a percentage of income. So you can see your net income and what you're expecting to do for the year. And then, so based on that, if it's not what you expect, if it's not what you expect, you can now play around with it and say, what happens if, you know, what happens if, so you go back to the data entry. So what happens if maybe I have no new customers, nothing happens, you know, what's going to happen to me? Like, let's say I have no new customers at all, because things are, you know, I know things are really tight. You know, how would I budget for that? Would my business even survive?
Hey, Evelyn.
Then go ahead. Someone
question.
said something.
Yeah. So you put a lot of emphasis on like the customers and customers versus recurring and all that. Just curious, is that just for this model, or like why do you have it that way?
No, that's what you want to do, because basically your customers make up your revenue. You can't have revenue without customers. So you want to know because if you're just generalizing, saying, oh, I'm going to make $500 this month, where is that going to come from? You don't necessarily, so if you have something like a fast food restaurant, you obviously would not have names. It could be I'll get 5 customers this month. Each person will average $25 a meal. But you want to know how many customers you can expect, because that's where your revenue is generated from. So you want to know at a customer level when you're budgeting, because that's how you derive how much revenue you're going to make. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, totally. Yep.
Yeah. So now I can go here and I can see that my income has, you know, I'm still positive profit and loss. So that's pretty good. And then let's say, okay, I didn't, and I go back here and I still customers, let's remove that. Let me see if I can still be positive. And yeah, it looks like I'm still, you know, I'm still, even just with my recurring revenue, it looks like I'm still able to cover my expenses. So it looks like, okay, as long as I don't lose any customers, I should be pretty good. And then, so you can kind of look at that and project like that. But there's something else I need to mention though. Unfortunately, just because you have a profit doesn't mean you're necessarily going to have cash, because profit and cash are not always the same. So you need to understand your cash position. And so to do that, you need a statement of cash flow. And your statement of cash flow answers, how do I really know how I'm doing? Basically, because at the end of the day, cash is the lifeblood of business. You can make profits all day long till you're blue. If there's no cash, you could eventually close down because there's no cash to keep things going. You say, how much am I really spending and where did my cash come from? Because profit and loss, you can do a lot of, there are things that are in there. So transactions that affect cash flow, first time you could have accounts receivable that shows up in your profit and loss, but it shows up, you have a profit, but not everything is in cash. You have your accounts payable. You might have vendors that you spent money with, but you haven't paid them. You might have loan principal payments. You might have contributions to businesses. You might have distributions to businesses. All of those stuff affect your cash flow. So you don't just want to know how much your profit is. You want to know how that affects your cash. So in my model, what I have done is I created a part where you say, okay, what happens, because this model is based on 100% of my revenues coming from cash. So I should still be okay cash-wise because I have a profit every month. But what happens if only 50% of my customers can pay me up front? And I estimate like, okay, 25% of them might not pay me. And then what happens if I say my cash payments are still 100%? So what happens to me profit cash-wise? We can see here what's going on with my cash flow. In March, I can see I'm going to be in big trouble. I'm okay in January. I'm okay. And I'm actually okay. This because my expenses are very, very consistent. Let me increase my expenses to the point where just to illustrate my point. Let me say, and that's because I had, let's say I was making $1,000 loan payment a month. Let me put this. Let's say just so, because if you have loan, and this is a good way to see how, taking loans and debt actually affects you, because you still need to pay those back. And let me say my beginning balance, let me just make it a little bit smaller just so, there we go. Okay, now I can see. Okay, so I start out the year, I'm pretty okay. And then February, okay, in March, I can see that I'm really beginning to get below zero. So here, this is zero line. So anything down here is bad. So I can see I'm pretty down here for a very, very long time. And then you can see I'm negative. So at that point, it's like, okay, I can figure out, okay, this is why the budgeting process is so important, because here you can see trouble coming before it happens. Then I can say to myself, okay, I either need to, if I believe in the business, the first thing you want to ask yourself is, do I believe in this business? Because if you don't, you might want to rethink, because that's a question that doesn't even cross people's mind. Because here's something I don't understand. Why do people kill themselves for something they don't even believe in? Just because it's something they've always done. The first thing you want to ask yourself is, do I even believe in this business? Do I believe it has a future? Because if you don't, you might as well just quit, because you're not going to fight. You will just, you're just going to let it go on its own. So if you believe in it and you believe there's a future to it, then you might want to start thinking, where do I start? Do I take a loan to cover my shortfalls? Is there any way I can increase revenue by, is there any way I can increase revenue, by which time be more aggressively marketing? Are there any expenses I can cut out? So this is where the plan, I talk to my banker and see if I can decrease my payments. Can I maybe, take advantage of the PPP loan, take like, the stimulus check. There's all the stuff that's going out. Are there any programs or credits out there that will help me with my cash flow? Those are the time. This is when you start looking at that before it happens and not after it has happened. So now I can go back here and knowing my cash flow is going to be negative. I can see it's going to be negative. It's not good. And I can go back to and then make new assumptions. I'm like, well, I'm going to be in big, big trouble. I know there's this new product I've been working on. If I go ahead and finish making this product now, I can probably get, maybe like 10 new customers in March, paying me, and maybe about 20 new customers in April. I know that's possible. I can see that happen. I have this avenue right here. I know people I can contact right there. They've been asking me for this product. All I need to do is just finish it up. And then I can probably reach out to Anne. Anne has been saying she wants to do this project. Maybe she might do that. Let me put that there. That's a pretty big project. She's going to pay me $5,000 for that project. You can start thinking and planning this ahead of time and say like, okay, now with that in there, how does that affect what do I look like cash-wise? Well, I still have 2 months that I'm down, but eventually, just having that, because my recurring revenue, because the nature of my revenue is recurring, I can see I'm going to be okay towards the year. So now I know that I'm not negative to the end of the year. I just have to cover 2 months. And then not only if you just have 2 months to cover, those are things you can get a line of credit for. You can go to your bank and say like, hey, here are my projections. This is what I'm planning on doing. I'm only going to be down this 2 months. Can I arrange a line of credit with you just to cover those 2 months? And after those 2 months, I should be able to pay you back because you can see that my cash flow is going to cap again once I get this project going. And this is where budgeting becomes really useful, because now you can look ahead and you can look forward. And before the crisis meets you, you're ahead of it. You're not just saying, oh, it's payroll day. I don't have money to pay my employees. What do I do? Ahead of time, you've planned it. You knew when your cash flow was going to be. You already have a plan of how you're going to cover that cash flow at that point. And you go for it. You go for it. Are there any questions at this point? Am I making sense? Again, I feel like I'm talking to my computer. Hi, computer. It doesn't make sense. If there are any questions, anything I need to explain better, or that didn't make any sense to you or anything?
Sounds good to me, Evelyn. I get where you're going.
Okay.
David, did you have a question? Did you just unmute?
Yeah, I'm gonna say like the only thing, I don't have like a specific thing right now, but I'm just like thinking of the tracking of the number of customers. I see why that's important, and didn't know if you had any other comments on like how, or I get why you would track that obviously, but determining like new versus recurring could seem like a lot of work for a small business, I guess. But it's just a small comment.
It's actually easier for a small business. You don't have that many customers, because here's the thing. If you don't know, and any financial software you have should be able to spit out a report of revenue. Well, not any, most financial software, let me not say any, because I haven't seen all financial software, but most financial software should be able to have a report that has revenue by customers. So it's something you can pull out from your financial records if you have a financial software. Now, if you don't have one and you're keeping track of everything by hand, you will have to you'll have to give receipts to every customer. That's one way of tracking. And then you should have some kind, even if you use Excel to add it up, regardless of how you track it, the basis of most software, and even when you track in Excel, is broken down by customers. That's just how it's tracked. And it's since the information is already there, if you can use that information to make you better in the future, why not use it?
I'll say too, as part of the co-starters program, for people who are just starting out and don't have that historic data of customers, we challenge them to interview a business owner who is working in the industry and to just ask them straight up, you know, when are your busy seasons? When are your slow seasons? So that then you can kind of plan for those shortages and make a strategy for marketing, or like Evelyn's saying, to approach the bank for the loan. So even if you don't have the data, you can kind of seek it other places, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. Thanks for adding that, Sarah. Yes, correct. And there are other ways you can get. So if you don't have that historic data, it's you, like Sarah said, please go interview someone else who has the data, because if you don't know what you're getting yourself into, you probably end up getting yourself into something you don't want to get yourself into. So which is why asking questions, making sure you have the information. I mean, you don't want to get too much information and become paralyzed. I don't agree with that either, but you want to get enough information so you know what you're getting yourself into before you get into it. So you don't want to get into something thinking it's all going to be all roses and chocolate and water fountains, because anybody who's been in business knows it's not all roses and chocolate fountains and it's just a garden of flowers. No, it's not. There's going to be hard times. I mean, if you're not ready for the ups and downs of running the business, you probably should not run a business. You probably should just stick with getting a paycheck, because they're going to be ups and downs, and you have to be ready for either way. Plan for either, for the good times and the bad times. It's just equally as good to plan for the good times, because it's easy to get carried away when you see money in your account. So imagine here, you see 98,000 in your account, you're like, man, I'm rich. Okay, I'm going to buy this, I'm going to buy this, I'm going to buy this, and before you know, it's like gone. So you have to plan for both. Not just the bad times, but the good. And what do I do with extra cash, and what do I do with little cash or not having enough cash? All of that has to be planned for. So when it happens, you already have a plan and you know how you're going to address it, and not wait till it happens and then you just spend money carelessly.
Mm-hmm. I think about time too, Evelyn, as you're talking about that. And I think about you specifically with tax season, right? That's like the high season, and you know your time is going to be taken. And then you're going to have this other season that's more of a lull as compared to that. And so making that plan, even in your personal life, right? You probably don't go on a vacation during tax season, you know, so it impacts your whole life.
Yeah, you just plan accordingly. Exactly. You plan, and you know, people think of budgets as restrictions, but really it gives you more freedom. Because when you know what you're going to do, you don't have to spend so much time thinking about it. You just do what you already plan to do. But if you don't have a plan, or you're just going by the, whatever, however the wind blows, then it's however the wind blows, and you spend more time thinking about what you're going to do than actually doing what you should be doing.
And great question. Thank you, David.
So, are there any specific scenarios that you would like me to, like you're thinking about, that you would like me to address when it creates a budget? Any specific questions that you have? Because like I said, this was supposed to be interactive, and this template I can send to you, Sarah, so you can send to everybody to play with, and just kind of, play around with some suggestion, anything you want me to cover, because because that's pretty much the gist of it, and the rest of it is just me just running through different scenarios on how you can adjust the budget to meet the demands of your business. But just to summarize it, is just making sure you have the revenue. You go to your past, break it down by customer. You break down your expenses by fixed, variable, and discretionary, because those are the you want to look at your budget, project out some different types of scenarios. You want to do worst case. If worst case happens, this is probably what I'm going to see. If the best case happens, this is what's going to happen, and this is what is most likely to happen. Especially now, you want to kind of have a plan, because what we're going through now, it could last for 2 years. Who knows how long this is going to happen? So you want to see, okay, how, what is my best course of action? It might just even be that maybe I might not even want to do this business anymore. Maybe I want to start something. Maybe it's a good time to start clean. Maybe that might be your solution when you look at everything, you're like, you know what, this is a better opportunity for me. Because what you want to know, it's not just enough to make a profit in your business. You also want to make sure you have the best use of your time. If your time could be better spent and more productive somewhere else, and you could probably, do better putting your effort in something else, you really want to put your effort in that thing. Because sometimes we're so one track minded, thinking we start a certain way and thinking this is the way we have to go down, even when it's not working anymore. And we shouldn't be afraid to ask the question, what if this is not it? What if this thing right here that's always been at the most bottom part of my heart, I've always been afraid to do it. What if this was the right time to do it? Maybe that might be the best course of action for you, but you don't know until you try.
Evelyn, can you talk a little bit about maybe some strategy or something you've seen for when people hit that sort of growth phase where they're scaling up, but it's like you maybe grow a little too fast for your pace, or I'm thinking like you get that big order, or you have to make a big purchase, counting on the order to come in, and you find yourself sort of strapped in between phase. Do you see people in that? Can you talk about that a little?
Sure. So let me create a model that looks like that. So let's say you're growing at a rate of 50 customers each month. And obviously at that point, you also have to budget for increased, obviously salary is going to increase. So let's say 700 was serving your current, so salary is probably going to increase by, probably going to be 10 times that. So you're growing fast, you're 10x, and salary is going to increase. Payroll expense is going to increase by 10 times. Rent is going to increase by, you need a bigger space. You have expenses you didn't have before. And then also you also have inventory that you have to buy every month. So let's say inventory is, let me put that as variable. We'll put that as, it's 35% of your business. So let's see what that looks like on a cash flow level. So we can see that, revenue per month, we can see how it's drastically going up. We start out with 28,500, the next one went 41,000, then we're 59,070. By the end of the year, we're at 216,000. I mean, that's 10x growth. I mean, you start at 28, you're at 216. I mean, you've almost 10 times your income. But at the same time, your expenses are growing just as fast. You can see you're not as profitable anymore. Your net cash disbursement is negative. And then your cash flow is negative. So basically, if you're going to be growing at such a fast rate, you really need to sit down. I mean, obviously, this is a very, very simple model. You really need to sit down and talk about really what that means. Sometimes when you're in the IT, you're in the tech space, that's how naturally it's just a high growth field. I mean, you are going to grow faster. And if you have an app or something that everybody wants, you really can't control the growth. It's just chaos. Everything's happening so quickly, and you're just running by the edge of your seat, just like trying to just make the day work, which is why they have venture capitalists and everything, because they see the potential of this new technology that has just been created. So a lot of times, a lot of this will be covered by venture capitalists, but let's talk about why they're so negative even though they're growing so quickly. That's because when you're growing quickly, you also need people to do the work. I mean, you need new developers, and developers don't come inexpensively. They have to test the apps. You're going to have obviously you have to have new features because customers are going to be looking for that. You're going to have increased customer service. You're going to have to, like I said, get the bigger space. They're going to be variable expenses that you didn't have before that you now have, because obviously and then one of the things that makes it so expensive is because you don't really have time. When you're growing that quickly, you don't really have time to really plan it out because things change every day. As soon as you make a plan, things are changing. And it changes so quickly that really you're going to the first best solution that comes your way. It's like, you're like, okay, that's good. And as soon as a matter of fact, if you have a plan, as soon as it meets the date, it's done. It's gone for. I mean, you can kind of manage it, But really, when things are changing so quickly, you can only manage so much. And that's really what's happening when you're growing so quickly. That's it. Some people like that. Some people like to be in that kind of environment, and that's you. When you're going so quickly, those are the things you need to watch out for. And then plus there's a lot of loan payments, which I didn't include on here, which doesn't affect your profit and loss, but it affects your cash flow. Those are things you need to watch out for, because the expenses, the debt, all of that, you need to make sure your ratios are in proportions, and kind of be careful as you make decisions. I mean, if you're a little bit more prudent, you can make it more manageable. But it'll still be a little bit out of control just by the very nature of where you are and what you're doing.
Thank you, Evelyn. Does that make sense for everybody?
Yeah, one quick question, kind of switching gears, I guess. With salary, one thing that I think maybe as a sole proprietor, like a question for that is, when do you start paying yourself a salary? Or what's kind of the conversation around that?
So if you're a sole proprietor, technically all the money you make for your business is yours. But the question I'm going to pose back to you, what do you want from your business? That's really what it boils down to. There's no one size fits all answer. So let's say your goal is to be the next Microsoft. My answer to you is put everything back. If your goal is just to because some people just don't care about being big. They just want to be the small guy on the side and just make a little side money. Take the profits in your business and keep moving, because it's just a side gig to you. But if your goal, let's say you just want to be like an average size business, you have, you eventually want this to be your full income. If that's where you're going, then obviously my answer there is different too, because then you want to start taking money as soon as you start making profits, to the point where it does not affect your growth. So for instance, let's say, if you're not making a profit, obviously you can't take, if your expenses are growing so much more than your income, because you have to keep investing your money into it. Say you finally get to the point where you're making $10,000 a month, the business only needs $5,000, so you have like $5,000 extra. You can say, okay, I'm going to put $3,000 back in, I'll take $2,000 out. And also that depends on how fast you want to grow. If you want to grow real fast, like, I'm going to put everything back in, I'll suffer now so I can gain in the future. So what it boils down to is, what do you want? What are you looking for? What do you want your business to do for you? So depending on what your business to do for you, that's how you treat it according to what you expect from it. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, no. So I mean, so many of these questions would be like very individualized, answers. So thanks for like covering that in a general way. That was good.
If you have other questions, David, please don't hold back, because we all glean insight from your questions and the answers. Don't be shy.
And just to not to be a dead horse, but just to hammer in on that is sometimes people start businesses and don't even know why they're starting business. They're starting because maybe they hop on the opportunity, or maybe because they see their neighbor doing it and they think they can do it, or maybe because it's the cool thing to do. And a lot of times people are just doing stuff and don't really know why they're doing it. But really, to run a business, you really need to understand why you're in the game in the first place. Because here's the thing, that's what keeps you in the game when things are hard. And two, that's what helps you actually grow. Because if you're just in it just half-heartedly, just because you stumbled upon it or because it was just the thing to do at the time, then you're going to struggle through the business, because your heart is not in it. It's just something you're doing. It's just one thing. You're doing it because you think that's what you ought to be doing. Your heart is not in it. So you don't really have a plan for it. And if you don't have a plan for your business, 10 years from now, you'll still be doing exactly the same thing. Nothing would have changed. You have to have a plan. You have to have a direction if you're going to change. And if you don't have that, not even just in business, in life, 10 years, you see people you went to high school with, like, man, you're still doing that? Nothing has changed. It's like, seriously?
Seems like you've ran into it before.
Yeah. But seriously, the same thing with business. It's the same thing. It's like, man, like, okay. And if that's all you want, that's good. I mean, if all you want is just a side gig and that's 10 years from now, that's what you want, that's good. I mean, there's no right or wrong answer. It's just know what you want and create a plan to get there.
Thank you. Sounds good. You guys have any other questions for Evelyn? That's it?
So if there are no questions, what I'll do is I will illustrate the opposite of what you just said.
Awesome.
Which is if you're growing so quickly, what happens with cash flow? So what happens if I want to downsize? You know, what happens if I decide maybe I don't even really want a big business after all? You know, I just thought I wanted it because my best friend had one, so I thought I had to have one. You know, and you sit down, because times like this, you sit down and you think about things, and you're like, I don't really fancy having employees. I don't really fancy being a boss. I don't really fancy the stress of being maybe this is a good time for me to downsize. So basically, if you're doing that, you're going to have to get rid of customers, because obviously you're not going to do it all yourself. So maybe you say, maybe I'll just add 3 customers in the year, and then I'll only be paying me, and I'm just going to pay me $5,000. My payroll will be $500. My rent, I'll just work from home. I don't have to pay rent, My insurance, okay, $1,000, telephone $140. I don't really need any of these expenses. And then my other expenses would just be 5% of income. So let's see what happens at that point. I still have the loan payments in there. I wouldn't have the loan payments if it was just me. Let's move that out. Let's move all those loan payments out. I'm like, I can live with this, less stress, but all the money I make is mine. I mean, I'm not making as much income. I mean, my income is, I've half my income, but I have less stress. I can deal with my clients. I still am paying myself well. I'm still making $5,000 a month, and my profits are still pretty good. So if I want to take a distribution, I still can. So I mean, I can live the life I want with this. Like, so why do I want to be big again? That's a question I ask too. Because financially, the bottom line, I mean, I know people that make millions of dollars and have nothing in their bank account. And I know people that have more money in their bank account making 1/10 of what they're making. So it's really not what you make, is what you get a kid. I mean, what's left in your pocket is what really matters, and not what's on the top line. And that's what people don't look at. They're always looking at, I gotta be at that $1 million. But here it is. I have less stress. I can do what I want to do, and I'm still very profitable with half the stress. That's something to look at too. People, not just the fast growth, sometimes the slow, steady, peaceful life might be worth not having that fast growth. That's something else you might want to look at too.
I think that's really smart, super valid. And I can say at Innovate Springfield, we've got members who really like that kind of pedal to the metal, fast pace, gonna go hard, go big, go home kind of thing. And we've got people who are like, you know what, I'm pretty happy with the way that things work. I like my afternoons to myself and my kid time and being this size. And so it's just knowing what works for you and
exactly.
being
Some
true to
people
yourself.
can't not leave when things are quiet and stable. They gotta always be in chaos. They love being in chaos. And if things are stable, they're like, oh, I don't know what to do myself. So they gotta throw themselves in chaos. And that fast growth is great for those personalities. If that's you, more grease your elbow. Power to you. Go for it. And some people just like, I don't need that. I don't need that headache. I just want to chill and take it easy. So you got to know what works for you. You can't do it because your best friend is doing it. You have to do it because that works for you. That works for your personality, your type,
This is great. Thank you so much, Evelyn. And you'll send me those spreadsheets and I'll follow up with the group with that evaluation. Did anyone else have any other questions for Evelyn before we break? We've got happy hour coming up here at 4 o'clock. I hope y'all come. That was my shameless commercial. Crickets. Okay, I'm gonna go have happy hour by myself, you guys. It'll be just me and my screen. And
I know it feels so weird because it just feels like you're talking to your computer.
Your high school drinking friends have never changed.
Yeah, maybe I should find them and give them the Zoom invite. That's a good one. Well, I appreciate you guys showing up and participating today. And Evelyn, I appreciate your time. I thought this was really helpful. And I'm especially looking forward to those spreadsheets so I can kind of run some scenarios for myself. And your contact information has been shared with everyone. So if anyone has any personal questions that they want to follow up with, please do feel free.
Oh, thank you. Nice meeting you guys.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Evelyn.
Bye, guys.
You're welcome. Bye.